Hello everyone, my name is Yara, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I want to read soon. Soon being pretty much my August TBR, but this is probably going to spill into after August, so I'm just saying soon. So I'm talking about my middle grade magic TBR, which is a readathon I'm co-hosting from August 1st to August 16th, and then also some other books that I just want to sprinkle in there. So if you missed my last video where I announced the middle grade magic readathon, all of the prompts for this readathon are inspired by quotes by people who talked about or written about children's literature and middle grade literature, with the overall intent of boosting middle grade stories, and specifically marginalized stories. So the way I've chosen this TBR is that I have a book that uniquely fits each prompt, but a lot of these books also fit multiple prompts, and I did that because in the likely event that I don't get to all these books, I'll still be able to finish all the prompts and finish the readathon. So the first prompt involves reading a book with a character who has a different experience from you, and for that I chose Race to the Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is also a part of the Rick Riordan Presents read-along that I keep plugging. In August we'll be reading Race to the Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse, Palo Santiago and The River of Tears by Taylor K. Magia, and The Storm Runner by J.C. Cervantes. Again, I'll leave the description for that readathon down below. But Race to the Sun follows a 7th grader named Nijane who has Navajo heritage, and all her life she's kind of been able to see monsters, but no one really believes her. Until the day that her dad goes missing, leaving a note that just says run. And then her brother, and her friend Davery have to go through trials in order to get to the House of the Sun to stop these monsters from coming, as well as save their dad. I'm so excited to learn more about the Dene people and their culture because native stories are so undertold in mainstream media. And the second part of the first prompt is to read a book with a similar experience to you, one where you share part of your identity. And for that, I chose More to the Story by Hannah Khan. This is a Little Woman retelling starring a Pakistani-American Muslim family. I have not read Little Women, but I have seen the movie, the one that came out last year by Greta Gerwig, and I thought it was excellent. I absolutely loved it. And the identity that I share with the story is being Muslim. And I'm really hoping to see a lot of the great family and sister dynamics, as well as the feminist themes that were in the original story, which I'm sure will be in this one as well. The second prompt is to read a book that gives you hope, and for this one I chose Hello Universe by Erin and Chada Kelly. I believe this follows 3 characters. So we have our main character named Virgil, who is Filipino-American, and who is quite introverted and thus doesn't really have many friends. A girl named Valencia, who is deaf and also has trouble making friends. A girl named Kaori, who is Japanese-American and a self-proclaimed psychic. And a boy named Chet, who is a bully. I believe the story takes place over one day, and it follows the events that occur after Chet pulls a prank on Virgil that has him stuck at the bottom of a well. And the reason I chose this as a book about hope is because I read that a lot of the themes that this book covers is about friendship and about people who wouldn't necessarily be together come together. And I just think it'll be a very hopeful story about people who didn't think they had others to lean on finding those people. So the next prompt is to read a book that deals with a serious topic, and for this I chose Inside Out and Back Again by Tang Halai. This is a novel written in verse that follows a young girl who finds herself in the midst of the Vietnam War and has to flee Saigon and come to America. I recently read Other Words for Home by Jasmine Warga, which was the similar topic of a refugee. And I think those stories are really important to read about because they really cover the collateral damage that comes with these really big events in history. The fourth prompt is to read a story time book that's like a fairy tale, folk tale, or picture book. And for this one, I chose Sulway by Lupita Nyong'o. So Lupita Nyong'o said that she wrote this book in inspiration from letters she received by young girls who talked about how happy they were to see a dark-skinned black woman in these feature films and be presented as beautiful. And so this picture book follows those themes of colorism and self-esteem that I think is so important for young girls to read. The fifth prompt is to read an imaginative or fantastical book. And any of the Rick Riordan Presents books could apply to this because they're all middle grade fantasy. So for example, Palo Santiago and The River of Tears comes out on August 4th, so I really want to get to that. And that's inspired by Hispanic American folklore, specifically the story of La Llorona, which is a wailing ghost that haunts this river that the main character lives near. But I also really want to read The Mistwick School of Musicraft by Jessica Corey. So this book was actually brought on my radar from Kara, who is the creator of this readathon. So this takes place in a world where music is the source of magic, and the main character really wants to attend the school for musicraft, but she ends up botching her audition. She ends up being able to attend the school on a trial period where she really is trying to prove herself, but also discovers some mysteries going on. Just the idea of music being the source of magic appealed to me so much, and I really want to get to it, and it sounds adorable. And the last prompt for the middle grade magic readathon is to read a book by a marginalized author that you think will bring you joy. And for this one, I'm going to be reading Once Upon an Eid, which is edited by S.K. Ali and Aisha Saeed. This is an anthology of stories from a bunch of Muslim authors from different backgrounds that all correspond around the holiday of Eid. I meant to read this back during the Ramadan readathon, but my copy didn't come until after it, so I just waited until now, and Eid is actually only in a few days, so this is perfect timing. The cover even says stories of hope and joy, so I think that fits this prompt perfectly. This singular book can probably fit almost all of the prompts, so I'm definitely going to prioritize it, especially because I already own it. So now I'm going to talk about some books that I'm just going to sprinkle in because I have a feeling that if I read too much of the same thing as in middle grade, I might get tired of it. So just in case, I have these options. So one that I want to read is The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I've heard fantastic things about this author's work, and so me and my friend are going to buddy read this month. It takes place in the antebellum South with a boy named Hiram Walker who was born into bondage. When he's very young, his mother ends up getting sold away, and despite having a miraculously good memory, he is left with no memory of her. And years later, he almost drowns, and this same miraculous power he was given saves him. And that kind of is the instigator for him deciding to run away. So as you can tell from the description, it's a historical novel kind of infused with fantasy, which I'm tending to love so far. I feel like a lot of the books that I'm in the mood for kind of have that vibe. So speaking of that, I also want to read The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. This is about the Mozart siblings, specifically Mozart's sister Nannerl, who is often overlooked in music history because she was a woman in her time. And growing up, the Mozart siblings had this kind of imaginative world that they used to go to called The Kingdom of Back, and in this story, Marie Lu kind of capitalizes on that fantastical element. And then the last book I want to get to is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I talked about these last two in my mid-year book freakout tag, but I've purchased them now, so I'm holding myself extra accountable to read them. This is a novel written in verse talking about two sisters, one living in the Dominican Republic and one living in New York, who don't know that they share the same father until their father dies in a plane accident. So that event triggers them meeting, as well as finding out secrets about their father's past that he never really expressed. I was already super excited to read this because it's Elizabeth Acevedo, but I recently watched Maddie Ness's review of this book from the channel My Name is Maddie Ness, which I'll link down below. And she said how she really liked the way that this explored grief as well as familial trauma in a very honest but delicate and beautiful way. So yeah, that's all the books I want to talk about. Honestly, the July Rick Riordan Presents read-along books are probably going to spill into August because I haven't finished any of them. There's still a few days left of July, but I don't see that happening. Please let me know if you read any of these books and your thoughts about them, because I would love to know. And also if you're participating in either the Rick Riordan Presents read-along or the Middle Grade Magic readathon. I feel like I'm not shutting up about those, but I will keep doing that so people appreciate middle grade. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you later. Bye!